Hi, Josh here, and today we're going to put the circuit breaker panel onto the electrical box on slides and mount it onto the rotary phase converter frame on slides. It's going to be quite slick.
The plan.
Okay, so the plan is to have the electrical box behind the circuit breaker panel. Why do I have a circuit breaker panel? Well, I wanted to kind of protect the motors, and I really didn't want to go into the expense of heaters. And I had the electrical panel laying around. It was a misorder, so I figured why not. Now, the original rotary phase converter was a bit Star Trek inspired. I kind of thought it looked like one of those stations where they beam people up. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. But putting the other motors onto this, onto the old rotary phase converter frame, it would have kind of totally obliterated that. So to add that Star Trekian flair, I decided to have the circuit breaker panel in front of the electrical box. Now, to get to the electrical box, I'm going to have the electrical box and circuit breaker slide out of the frame of the rotary phase converter, and then have the circuit breaker box slide over to the right, which will reveal the relays. This also helps save on space, so since I don't have to have a spot for a fairly large, or it's actually a small circuit breaker, but it's decently sized, and the electrical box, which is also quite large.
Igor, get my wrench.
Yes, master.
First step is to mount the drawer slides onto the electrical box. Unfortunately, I couldn't have both drawer slides standing up, which would have been the ideal position. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this drawer slide is going to attach to the circuit breaker panel. Anyway, due to the height restriction, I had one stand up and one lay flat. Now to mount this to the electrical panel, I have two pieces of angle iron. Now on the one that lays flat to the electrical box, it's just bolted through. So I have the angle iron pointing inward towards the inside of the electrical box, bolted to one half of the drawer slide, and the other half of the drawer slide bolted into the electrical box. The other side's a bit more complicated. I have the drawer slide standing on a piece of angle iron bolted, and that piece of angle iron is going to get welded to the electrical box. I also, to make sure everything's square, I did use a caliper to make sure that was parallel to the electrical box. The reason I did this is because it was easier than tape measure. So to mount the circuit breaker box onto the electrical box, I just place it on top, use some scrap 1/4 inch thick angle iron as spacers, clamp the one side, the one piece of angle iron that's standing upright to the circuit breaker panel, and then tack everything together. Then to weld it, I have detached the drawer slides, which is just a couple bolts, and then weld everything together. Now to mount the assembly onto the old portion of the rotary phase converter, I have to weld in struts that will support drawer slides. Now the one side I just kind of clamp on, square it up with a square, and weld it in. Then I use another piece of angle iron sort of as a straight edge to mount the other side in. This kind of worked, but it wasn't perfect. So once I attach the drawer slides to those pieces of angle iron, then attach another piece of angle iron to those drawer slides, I drop the whole assembly into the rotary phase converter. Then I use some clamps to clamp the face of the electrical panel to the sides of the struts coming up on the rotary phase converter. This will cause the electrical box and circuit breaker panel, will cause the front of the circuit breaker panel to sit flush to the rotary phase converter, when it's pushed all the way in. Once it's in place and square, I go underneath and weld in the other piece of angle iron and attach to the other side of the drawer slides. I just tack them in for now though. So once everything was tacked together, I took the whole assembly out, disconnecting the drawer slides, flipped upside down so that I could better weld the piece of angle iron to the electrical box. Once I installed the electrical box and circuit breaker panel back into the rotary phase converter, I discovered that the drawer slides were ill-equipped to handle the amount of weight. They didn't break or anything, but it kind of leaned out from the phase converter. It didn't look too good. So I decided to weld in some upper rails so that I can attach some drawer slides to that to make the whole thing a lot more sturdier. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that I did not have enough room for these drawer slides. So once I installed them, figured this out, I had to go back and remove them. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, hit that like button. Every like counts. If you want to leave a comment, say you think that me trying to make a rotary phase converter look like a set piece on Star Trek is a bit weird, let me know. Or if you think it's a great idea, let me know. It'll be nice to know that I'm not the only crazy Star Trekian out there. Although I do have to say, now that I think about it, Star Trek never really had anything that slid out. That's actually more Stargate. So maybe this one's Stargate inspired. But no, it really doesn't fit there either. Oh well. If you think of what this is inspired by, let me know in the comments so that we would both know. If you want to be notified when the next episode comes out for the rotary phase converter build or any of my other builds, why don't you hit that subscribe button. If you want to see any of my write-ups, why don't you go to 610bob.com. Also, go to my Google Plus page. There I upload photos and write some stuff on what I'm currently doing. It's a bit more up to date than the videos. Anyway, I think that's it for this episode. Thanks. Bye!
The blood.